On my first day, I received secretive orders to teach new cadets to violate the Constitution by entering homes without a judicial warrant. DHS assures the public these cadets can get the job training on compensate for anything missing at the academy. This is a lie. Many graduates go to their home office just long enough to get their gun, their badge, and their body armor before deploying to places like Minneapolis.
Tuition. Well, what do you think the moral intuition of Americans is today about shooting Americans in the face for exercising their First Amendment rights, or stripping them of their lawful gun and then shooting them 10 times?
I swear, every week it's a new stunt from the Trump world outrage factory, and somehow it's always louder, messier, and more cynical than the week before. Right now, we've got this perfect storm. Whistleblower heat around immigration enforcement, media tantrums from the usual MAGA mouthpieces, and the same old fear-based messaging getting trotted out like it's a magic trick. And the goal is always the same: distract, inflame, and dodge accountability. So yeah, let's watch this together. If you love explosive content like this and want to see more, click that subscribe button.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal, Representative Garcia, members of the committee. My name is Ryan Schwank. I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution when I joined ICE on August 1st, 2021, as an assistant chief counsel. I followed that oath for 4.5 years, working side by side with ICE officers. And I followed it when I resigned on February 13th, 2026, a little over a week ago, so that I could speak to you today. I am here because I am duty-bound to report the legally required training program at the ICE Academy is deficient, defective, and broken. 5 months ago, I was asked to teach the law to new cadets at the ICE Academy in Glencoe, Georgia, where ICE is training its new, inexperienced recruits. I volunteered, those without law enforcement training, I volunteered to take on this assignment based on my experience in law enforcement oversight, including at the state and local level prior to my work with ICE. On my first day, I received secretive orders to teach new cadets to violate the Constitution by entering homes without a judicial warrant. For the last 5 months, I watched ICE dismantle the training program, cutting 240 hours of vital classes from a 584-hour program. Classes that teach the Constitution, our legal system, firearms training, the use of force, lawful arrests, proper detention, and the limits of officers' authority. For example, they ceased all of the legal instructions regarding use of force. This means that cadets are not taught what it means to be objectively reasonable, the very standard which the law requires them to meet when deciding whether or not to use deadly force. Our jobs as instructors are to teach them so well that they can make split-second decisions about what they can and cannot do in life or death situations. Yet, in the name of churning out an endless stream of officers, DHS leadership has dismantled the academic and practical tests that we need to know if cadets can safely and lawfully perform their job. All to satisfy an administration demanding they train thousands of new officers before the end of the year. DHS told the public that new cadets receive all the training they need to perform their duties, that no critical material or standards have been cut. This is a lie. ICE made the program shorter, and they removed so many essential parts that what remains is a dangerous husk. No reasonable person would believe a training program suddenly cut nearly in half could meet the minimum legal requirements. These aren't abstract rules. They're required in regulations such as 8 CFR 287G1. Congress requires immigration officers to meet minimum standards for a reason. ICE cannot lawfully perform their duties, make arrests, carry weapons, and use force without passing appropriate training. New cadets are graduating from the academy despite widespread concerns among training staff that even in the final days of training, the cadets cannot demonstrate a solid grasp of the tactics or the law required to perform their jobs. Without reform, ICE will graduate thousands of new officers who do not know their constitutional duty, do not know the limits of their authority, and who do not have the training to recognize an unlawful order. That should scare everyone. DHS assures the public these cadets can get the job training on compensate for anything missing at the academy. This is a lie. Many graduates go to their home office just long enough to get their gun, their badge, and their body armor before deploying to places like Minneapolis and other ICE operations with minimal supervision.
Hold up, I need a second. Because that testimony is the kind of thing that should set off alarms across the entire country, not just in immigration politics. When someone who was literally an ICE attorney, sworn to the Constitution, walks out and says, yeah, they're basically speed-running recruits into the field. That's not bureaucratic hiccup territory. That's civil liberties on a conveyor belt. And notice the pattern. When Trump-aligned leadership gets near an agency, everything turns into quotas, optics, and brute force theater. It's not about safety. It's about generating scary footage for cable news and campaign clips. And the sickest part? Undertraining doesn't just endanger migrants. It endangers the public and the officers themselves. You're creating armed agents who might not even recognize an unlawful order. That's how constitutional rights get treated like optional DLC. Schwank resigning is what accountability looks like, and it's rare.
It's shocking that anyone would think this is safe or responsible. And this pattern of lies is not isolated. It extends beyond the training program to include deceiving Congress and the public about the rules followed by ICE officers once they graduate. On my first day at the academy, I was instructed to read and return a memo in my supervisor's presence, which claimed ICE officers could enter homes without a judicial warrant. The acting ICE director authorized the very conduct that DHS, in its own 2025 legal training materials, had called the chief evil against which the wording of the Fourth Amendment is directed. That is, physical entry of the home without consent or a proper warrant. Never in my career had I ever received such a blatantly unlawful order, nor one conveyed in such a troubling manner. Incredibly, I was being shown this memo in secret by my supervisor, who made sure that I understood that disobedience could cost me my job. ICE is teaching cadets to violate the Constitution, and they were attempting to cloak it in secrecy by demanding that I lie about it. I am here to convey to the public the danger that is being created at the ICE Academy. I know from my conversations with many facility members, many of the faculty, that I am not alone in my fear. Law enforcement is a deadly serious business. It is not a place for shortcuts. Deficient training can and will get people killed. It can and will lead to unlawful arrests, violations of constitutional rights, and a fundamental loss of public trust in law enforcement. ICE is lying to Congress and the American people about the steps it is taking to ensure its 12,000 new officers faithfully uphold the Constitution and can perform their jobs. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to you today and happy to answer any questions you have now or in the future. Okay,
now watch what happens next. The minute someone like Schwank puts receipts on the table, Trump's media defenders don't argue the substance. They sprint straight to the media is mean to us panic button. Because that's Carolyn Levit's whole brand. She's not there to explain policy. She's there to turn every consequence into a persecution story. Networks won't air a Trump event. She calls it bias, like broadcasters are legally required to provide free airtime for whatever chaos he's selling this week. Meanwhile, the actual scandal is an agency allegedly being pushed into shady, rights-trampling shortcuts, and she wants the national conversation to be about her hurt feelings in TV programming. And this is the MAGA playbook. Drown out oversight with outrage. If you can keep people arguing about censorship, they won't ask why whistleblowers are saying internal leadership went off the rails. So yeah, tantrums on cable. Accountability? That's the part they're terrified of.
I don't understand why and where my colleagues are going on everything else. And now they want to be the protectors of girls and women. I didn't hear them screaming this when Renee Good was killed in the middle of the street in Minneapolis. I didn't hear any protection for Renee Good, a U.S. citizen that was killed by the same people that the vast majority of you just voted to give more money to. I didn't hear the same thing. In fact, it was a lot of crickets, specifically including the women, as we were just lectured about what we need to do as women when it came down to the Epstein files. I heard crickets. In fact, we could not get any signatures onto that discharge petition to the extent that we shut down the entire House, and there was no business that was conducted in this entire country on behalf of our constituents But let me be clear, the Republicans are going to protect girls and women because that's what this is all about. It's not about the report because the amendment says it's about a report. Like, miss me on being protectors. Just say that this is what you believe, this is what you're doing. But don't come at us and tell us as women what we should be okay with, what we shouldn't be okay with, because it's just kind of like the same thing where I should be telling a lot of women on the other side of the aisle, I don't know how it is that you are not protecting women as they need protections over their own bodies to make their own decisions.
The gentleman yield for a question.
I will yield for a question.
Well, thank you, Ms. Crockett, for those trenchant remarks. You know, our friend and colleague from New Jersey started by saying, what do most Americans think of as wrong? So he wants to ground people's approach to this bill on moral intuition. Well, what do you think the moral intuition of Americans is today about shooting Americans in the face for exercising their First Amendment rights, or stripping them of their lawful gun and then shooting them 10 times? You think the vast majority of Americans reject that?
Oh, I know they do.
You think that's why Donald Trump says he's going to de-escalate and they're trying to get out of Minneapolis because the whole country rejects the bloody, violent authoritarianism on display there?
Oh, absolutely.
Against women and girls and men and boys?
Yeah.
Who? Crockett just did the thing that drives the right insane. She refused to let them cherry pick which victims count. And you can hear it in her tone. This isn't performative. This is someone who's watched these people suddenly discover women's safety the second it becomes a cudgel. Because here's the pattern. When it's bodily autonomy, they're all states' rights and personal responsibility. When it's guns, it's thoughts and prayers, and absolutely nothing changes. But when they can slap an immigrant label on a tragedy, oh, now it's a 5-alarm moral emergency and they need new powers, new money, new crackdowns. And the Epstein file moment she referenced, that's the tell. If you're serious about protecting girls, you don't go silent when it gets politically inconvenient. So yeah, Crockett's not lecturing. She's exposing a scam.
Americans who have lost parents, siblings, children, grandchildren, and treasured loved ones to the scourge of illegal immigration led in by the past administration. Millions and millions of people from jails, millions and millions of people from countries that we don't want to know about. Drug dealers, murderers, 11,888 murderers were allowed into our country by the Biden administration. These are the angel families that we love, that for decades our government betrayed and our media totally ignored, and I've seen it. When I first got involved with the angel families, I had a meeting. It was so sad. And they got up and spoke, and the media literally just turned off the cameras. They didn't want to hear them. It was my first glimpse as to what was happening. These are sick people that cover stories like that, or that don't cover them, which is worse. Everyone in this room not only suffered an infinite loss, they were the victims of politicians who put the comfort of foreign criminals before the safety of American citizens and American patriots. Their stories were censored and suppressed like maybe almost never before, so that the politicians could open our borders and allow our nation to be invaded. If we didn't win the election, our nation would right now be destroyed. But under the Trump administration, their suffering is forgotten no longer. In just a few moments, I officially sign a proclamation that I've been waiting to sign for a long time, including my first administration. There were so many different legal roadblocks, it was incredible. We got it done, and I'm doing it today. February 22nd is going to be National Angel Family Day. Very important. So many incredible family members and friends, parents and children. On February 22nd, 2 years ago, a brilliant 22-year-old nursing student named Laken Hope Riley went out for a run on a college campus in Georgia. Laken was viciously attacked, brutally beaten and murdered by an illegal alien gang member who the last administration heartlessly released into our country. No problems. Let him in. They let in everybody. They didn't check anybody. They let in everybody. Among the first bills I signed into law after taking office last year was the Laken-Riley Act. I'm so proud of it. To ensure illegal alien criminals are rapidly removed from the United States of America, if that's okay with the media. That bill has already been really playing a big role in the life of our country. It's resulted in over 21,000 illegal alien arrests, 21,000.
Man, listen to the way he talks about grief like it's campaign inventory. You can feel the setup. Stack tragedies, toss in big scary numbers, say invasion, and boom, now you're supposed to clap for a proclamation like it fixes anything. And here's what really bothers me. He's not offering a serious system. He's offering a ritual, a holiday, a slogan, a permanent looping highlight reel to keep people scared and angry so they'll accept whatever crackdown he wants next. That's not honoring victims. That's converting pain into permission. Meanwhile, the actual grown-up conversation, smart immigration courts, targeted enforcement, humane processing, employers held accountable, real community safety investments, gets buried because fear is louder. So going forward, I'm begging people, don't let politicians rent someone's tragedy to buy power. Demand policy, demand facts, and keep your democracy off their little stage.